It usually takes me till about just when I'm about to put a mouthful of my dinner that I realise I forgot my favourite thing. Forgot my chili sauce. So I quickly scurry off to the fridge, grab the sriracha bottle out and sit back down the table and squeeze a nice big dollop of sriracha on my plate. I love chili sauce. I could basically bathe in it if I was allowed to, or if I had a bath big enough to bathe in it. Chili is one of those fascinating things. It's been around for nearly 6,000 years. It was one of the most first domesticated fruits back in Peru. Before the spice trade, it was one of the first. Now, with chilies, there's actually a unit that is used to measure the heat of the chilies. It's called Scovilles, so it's Scoville units. It was invented by a name called Wilbur Scoville back in the 1600s. Now, he created this unit of measurement on heat based off tasting chilies and different heat levels, and ranging it from 1 to almost 100,000 levels of degrees of heat. They've now since moved away from testing on humans because they don't find it ethical anymore. They've found a chemical way to be able to record that heat. But I find chilies really fascinating because they have quite a history behind them and quite some interesting facts. Did you know that mammals are the only animals or people in this existence that can actually taste the spice? Birds can't taste the heat of a chili. So one of the ways that chilies are able to distribute over the world is that the birds can eat the seeds without being burnt or scalded in any way and carry them hundreds of kilometres away. I wish sometimes that I was a bird that didn't get impacted by chili, because sometimes my confidence I kind of overestimate my ability of heat threshold. With chilies, they are something that you can even grow in your backyard. They're not that hard to grow. You can grow them in a pot plant, anything like that. Now, why they are the superior condiment? Now, I have a lot of condiments in my fridge. It takes up the whole top shelf, from mustards to mayonnaise to ketchup. Now, why is it better than tomato sauce, even mayonnaise, which are some of the most popular condiments all over the world? In the United States, they sell millions and millions of kilos of mayonnaise every year. But chili sauce is fermented. It's actually good for your gut and good for your health. Did you know that chilies actually have more vitamin C than an orange in one chili? They also have extreme health benefits. So it helps to thin your mucus when you're sick, which can help kind of break down sinus infections and things like that. But also if you have a sinus infection, please go see your doctor. Don't eat chilies to try and solve it. And they're just one of those things that I use on everything. Every Sunday morning, I cook a piece of sourdough toast, scrambled eggs, and then bathe it in chili sauce. Sometimes a little sprinkle of herbs on top. My mum cannot handle chilies. My dad, on the other hand, thinks he can handle a lot, but actually can't. On one of their first dates, there was a chili pot plant sitting in the middle of the table. And my dad was like, "Oh, I love chilies. Just love them." And mum was like, "Oh, okay, cool. That's great." He's like, "Oh no, I'll grab one and I'll eat it off the table." And my mum just started laughing after he took the first bite. His face went red. You can always see the steam coming out of his ears. And every time my dad says how much he loves chilies now, my mum always brings up that story. It's always on the dinner table. Now, depending on where you're from or where you grew up, you may not have been exposed to chilies or might not have a threshold for that kind of spice. So the best way to kind of, if you want or are interested in trying to get into it, is to start really small. Don't try and pour a heap like I do over the top, because as I found without my partner, it can become quite a barrier and kind of work the opposite way and never come back. So just start off with a little bit, whether you mix it in with some mayonnaise to start off with, and build up your heat tolerance that way. When I went to boarding school, I was fortunate enough to go with some international kids who were from many different countries over the world. And I thought I could handle spice until one day I tried one of the Thai girl's noodles that she brought over from Thailand, and I couldn't pass or go to the toilet. Well, I went to the toilet many times over the next 24 hours and it was quite an experience. But chili sauce is just one of those things that comes in many different colors. You can buy varieties of different chilies. And it's something that, if you use appropriately, can be quite an enjoyable condiment for anybody.